I do know on your laptop you can get an app called Spotify, which is also where we are. So if you're listening to this on the playback on Spotify, thank you so much. Be sure to go to our Facebook group. Let's see, Rock Talk Lapidary, just like the name of the show. And Andrew, our technical advisor, has set that all up tonight. So it looks like we have a full house. We do have quite a few amazing co-hosts and guest hosts with us today. And we are doing a giveaway at the end of the show like we do every week. So make sure that you're down there in the comment section commenting away, and I'll make sure to get your comments posted on the screen. So if you have any questions while the show is happening, we will do our darn bestest to get it answered for you. So what other news do I have for you before we get started? I don't have any other news, so I guess we'll get started. I'm going to introduce each of our co-hosts. We have Ryan Brown of Glacier Brothers. He sells rocks and minerals. He's a super awesome guy. He's super funny. We have David Leaton, who owns a charity that gives out Rock Tumblers to kids with autism who are on the spectrum and are in school, and they're not just like a cheap tumbler. They're a really, really good tumbler that'll last them for years and years to come. And then we have Brad, and Brad owns his own rock shop up in Duchesne, and that's very exciting. And then we have Matt with us. He is a high-end mineral collector. So I'm going to go ahead and add them all in real quick. Guys, hi. We are missing someone tonight. We are missing Courtney. Our sweet Courtney, she's under the weather and she's missing this show, but hopefully she's watching in the comments or making fun of us in the comments.
Now, I just want Courtney to know I've been down with the same thing. I climbed up off of my deathbed to be here for this show.
Oh, we are very glad you're here. We are very glad you're here, David. So I wanted to start the show with something really funny before we all bring on our super awesome guest. And we have been doing a lot of talking about dinosaurs the last two shows. This is the third in our trilogy. And so I got this really cute video off of TikTok, and I never got that before. That was so funny to me. I just had to share it. So before we bring Mark on, I do want to show, let's see here. I know what I was going to say. Sorry. I'm all tangled up because my camera broke right before the show. So does anyone have any news for this week they'd like to add in before we welcome on Mark? Okay, great. We're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, don't everybody talk at one time.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay, you're great. Okay, so without any further ado, let's bring on Mark Anderson. Mark, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
How's
It's good
it
to be
going?
here. Good.
So I have been following you for years. What got me interested in you was your YouTube videos, of all things. I was looking up everywhere for Gembone information on how to polish it, and I am so thrilled that I got to meet you because I have been doing everything you say when it comes to working with Gembone, and you are an awesome teacher.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate when people take the time out of their day to watch one of my videos and learn. And, I need to be more up to date with YouTube and post more content there because I've learned a lot and I haven't posted for a while, including updating my Hextall treatment and how I treat dinosaur bone. I've learned a lot since I've started and posted those original videos on that. It's been fun and interesting.
Yeah, I think besides the YouTube, besides the YouTube, you're also on TikTok, and your TikTok has taken off. I was looking at that. I thought I was doing good with like 12,000 followers, but you have over 100,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok's kind of crazy. I don't even know what to say about that. My wife got me to do TikTok, and I decided to. I got COVID, and I decided to just throw the whole perfectionism thing out the window and post what I was doing at that point in time. I was getting over COVID, and I was having a really hard time paying attention for more than 15 minutes at a time. Usually my engraving work for jewelry with dinosaur bone, I'm engraving skulls or something along those lines, and it requires many hours of concentration. And I just couldn't sit and do it. And so I started hand engraving pennies, and I said, screw it, I'm going to throw them on TikTok. And yeah, it was one of those things where me fighting perfectionism and just throwing stuff on there and letting it go. And
speaking of perfectionism, can I show you one of the videos? The one where you're talking about perfectionism?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now. That was smooth.
That's great.
It's weird watching your own stuff.
It is. Oh. So I take it you don't go back after you edit. You're done. You upload it. You never look at it again.
No, it depends on the video. Some of them I do. Some of them I'm entertained by, and some of them after I do them, like I still like in the back of my head just I could have done that different, or it's funny though. I just posting content even when you don't like it. Like it's amazing how something can take off when you think that it sucks. The Elvis penny I did for TikTok was one that was an example of that for me. But there's also been plenty of pieces of jewelry I've made for clients where, it didn't turn out how I wanted it to in my head. Little parts here and there. And a lot of times I'll do pieces over if I'm really, they're that far from the mark that I have of what I think they should look like. But, sometimes I'll show a client progress of, hey, I want to do it over again. And they'll be absolutely in love with it. And it'll just be like, no, I want that one. And it'll be like, oh, okay. Like right now, I've been struggling with a platinum ring. And I just purchased more platinum for it today. I screwed up the sapphire cap. And I'm really lucky because I got the sapphire cap off of eBay. And I was able to buy a parcel where these caps are usually $600 a pop. So right now, this is the third one I'm doing. So it would be $1,800 at this point if I were buying them for what they are originally intended for at retail. There's certain things I do where my bar is set quite high. Working with platinum, using synthetic sapphire to cap the bone and protect it. This is kind of one of those things where over time I've had collectors who are interested in dinosaur bone and they want a piece of jewelry. And I've been doing this for going on 23 years now. And I've seen the results of people wearing rings, including dinosaur bone. And that's where the sapphire cap came from, is seeing beautiful pieces of bone destroyed because somebody doesn't take a ring off. And this particular ring is one of my most popular designs. It was at one point in time, and I phased it out. I'll show you it real quick. So let's see, that ring right there is the design I'm mimicking. And I'm doing it with the sapphire cap. And past this particular design, this edge, and here, this is so weird. I'm doing it backwards on camera. So this edge right here is a weak point. And when you hit your ring on that edge, it can chip out. And so covering it with sapphire, thank you. So covering it with sapphire on the right and left side, you basically protect where it thins down. Another huge benefit of capping with sapphire is a lot of times when I go back and forth with a client on a custom piece, they see a particular cell they love in the dinosaur bone. And as those who follow my work and see macro photos I post, I mean, sometimes there's just a cell that is just absolutely amazing. And if you were to take a piece and cab it, it's going to change. You may be able to like put that cell center focus and, but the rest of the bone is going to change as you cab it. So if there's other, cells that add to that, as you grind things down, everything's going to change. And when you cap bone, you keep that flat exactly what they see, and you're just capturing that image. And the other thing is, sapphire takes an extremely high polish. There's no undercutting. It keeps all the details in the trabecula, the cell walls, the cells themselves. If it's a softer bone, it basically saves it from any issues. And it's one of those things where I started implementing it in rings because one of my clients, he destroyed his wedding ring because he wouldn't take it off when he was digging through rocks and everything. And which I get, you have a wedding band, it was a wedding ring. And again, that style that you just saw, and he didn't take it off. So I ended up redoing it, and his was the first with the sapphire cap. And at that point in time too, I also did a palisite meteorite. And that one, palisite, is you have olivine crystals trapped in the meteorite. And with that particular kind of meteorite, they rust. They rust like no tomorrow. And if you aren't able to protect that, and again, it was a client who wanted it in a ring. It went into an 18 karat green gold ring. And when he contacted me about it, I was like, well, we got to do something to protect the meteorite. Otherwise, it's going to rust. And I had no idea how bad this particular meteorite rusts. So I made him his ring. Everything worked out. And I had the remaining meteorite slab, sitting around. It's humid here in Wisconsin in the summer. The rust actually caused the olivine crystals to pop out of the meteorite in some areas. So it actually pushed the olivine out of the meteorite, which I was not expecting. I just thought the meteorite was going to have surface rust and, you'd just be able to like rub it down, polish it again, get rid of the rust, and you'd be good. But that was not the case. So that's where the sapphire capping started. And it's funny because, again, back to perfectionism, I also didn't, at that point in time, was against like treating bone. Everything had to be natural. I then, that forced me out of my little box of that. And the bone looked so good under the sapphire cap. It having a dome, it also magnified those cell details. So the client now, it's been, I want to say, 6 or 7 years. He says the ring still looks as good as it did the day he got it. I'm sure the gold has scratches at this point, but he says the gem is absolutely still stunning, which again, sapphire is 9 for hardness. Gembone is 6.5 to 7. So, you gain, well, depending on the gembone, it can even get softer than that if the calcite content's high. But, again, you turn something from being subject to being, destroyed by hitting it on an edge to basically practically bulletproof. Besides, if I were to be able to do synthetic diamond caps, that would be even better. But there's limitations with all of it too. I do quartz caps on most things because it's, again, at a price point that most people can understand versus sapphire being a lot more expensive and a lot more challenging to work up too. So when it came to that, sapphire, you have to work on wood wheels or phenolic wheels. You can't just take it to your Genie Galaxy wheels and expect it to polish up. It's going to completely orange peel and look like crap. Oh, wow. So I actually had to learn a lot when I started the sapphire thing too. You'll see people get ruby or sapphire and they cab it and you'll see it doesn't look right. And again, it needs to be taken to phenolic wheels or custom made wood wheels. I had a custom made set of wood wheels done for that particular thing.
So, Mark,
I have a
David,
I just sorry, the second time.
Right quick. When you're talking about capping, you're talking about what we used to call doing a doublet when we would use
yes.
quartz. Okay.
Yep. doublet or triplet or quadruplet. I've done all of those. So depending on what it is, again, you're just basically throwing a shield over the dinosaur bone for rings, and it worked for bracelets. But I've done it with pendants now too because it looks so good. I mean, it really does make the bone pop in a way that I never expected. When you increase that surface area for light to hit and come in, it actually brings out the bone way more than it shows it off better than anything. It was one of those things, like I said, me being a perfectionist and like not wanting things treated, and again, no doublet opals at that point in time, no triplet opals. I was against all of that stuff. And then you do something for a client, and then it's like I couldn't let go of it after I did it. And after people have seen them in person, after, I have boneheads who didn't like it and they didn't like the idea. And then they see the piece and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how good this looks. And I'm like, I know. Right. Otherwise, I would have never kept doing it. It's a pain in the ass. I had so many failures with this process and to get it down. And it's why, like I said, with Hextall and treating bone, I've learned so much, because when I started capping, I had piece after piece fail to start out with. I had successful pieces, but then I would have pieces where, like 2 weeks into it, the cap would start to separate, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I realized that the bone still had oil in it, which if you're treating any kind of material, you want all of the oil out. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing Hextall, there's various people who talk about Star Bond and all these other things. Well, if you don't eliminate the oil from your bone, which if it's a big piece of bone, it's usually thrown in an oil saw. Even if it's not that big, a 10-inch saw cuts up a lot of stuff. Unless you're hand sawing with a water saw, oil's probably going to get into that bone. And the webbing is very porous. I also, with Hextall, I started treating because of the fact the webbing is porous and the webbing is soft at times, and the webbing will etch out. That was another lesson I learned. I had a pendant I wore, and when the pendant, it was probably about a year and a half, 2 years into it, all of a sudden the bone, the webbing started etching out, and it was a pendant. So I did wear it in the shower sometimes, but it didn't get, wear and tear of a ring. So I was not expecting all of a sudden the dinosaur bone trabecula, the webbing, to start etching out and become a dull brown. And so I ended up retreating it. I treated it. It wasn't originally treated because, again, I was like, don't glue stuff in. Don't use epoxy resin. Everything has to be natural. Yes. So it was along those lines. And it was one of those things that after I did it, then it held up. And I was like, okay. And as time has gone on, that particular piece was well over 10 years ago. And as time's gone on, I've discovered that a lot of bone has issues with the webbing, and it may not have issues right away. You may be able to get away with it for a little while, but if it gets worn, and if it gets worn constantly, and it gets subject to, a lot of municipalities have chlorine in their water. Chlorine's going to have issues with it. You have these mild acids in your skin and stuff, depending on what you eat. That's going to cause issues, again, if it's turned into jewelry.
I got a question really quick.
Yes, Ryan.
I have one of our people, Scott Lambright, ask, what is the best polishing compound for Gembone?
That's going to be depending on what you want to do. So I say that because I like the webbing to undercut when I am not capping. I like that reptilian scale type look.
Yeah.
To me, it gives it a texture. It adds a dimension to it. And you can accentuate that if you use cerium oxide on felt. Now, if you don't want that, if you use a more hard compound, more hard media carrying, like if you use hard leather or something, you can kind of eliminate some of the undercutting. Fabuluster is used for a final polish on bone. Some people use it. I've seen that to be a method where the undercutting is minimalized. I've also used diamond compound on wood to minimize the undercutting of the webbing. So those are, like I said, there's various options depending on what you want your outcome to be and how you want it to look in the end. So if you like the undercut webbing, then use those methods. If you don't like it, then stick with a harder media instead of using a felt.
I would really love to showcase some of the jewelry that we've got pictures of here. It's so beautiful. Could you tell us about this piece?
Oh my god.
Okay, so this is it was about, I want to say 14 years ago, I saw my very first opalized bone piece out of Australia. And I could not keep that out of my brain after seeing it. There was 3 cabs that were posted online. I had the link saved for the longest period of time. When I met my wife, I showed her too. She thought it was absolutely insane. I did searches constantly online to try to find it when it came up. The 3 cabs had sold, so I'd never even had a shot at them. So this was me recreating that at a price point people could afford. So this is a dinosaur bone. It's spiderweb dinosaur bone. It is, a lot of people want to call this synthetic opal. It's actually imitation opal. For it to be a true synthetic, it wouldn't have a plastic polymer in it, which it does, which also makes it so it will have no issues. I used spiderweb dinosaur bone. I cut it really, really thin, and then I capped the bone with quartz. So this is capped with natural quartz on the front, then spiderweb dinosaur bone, and then, again, imitation opal for the back. And then I cut the footprint out on the back. And the footprint is a design aspect that I've gone throughout the years. I've based the footprint off of natural dinosaur prints that have been, pictured online that I've seen. And this particular one was shown in National Geographic on their website. So that was where that design came from. And what that design stands for is taking your next step towards whatever your dream is. And whatever you do, it's a single step. Every step gets you closer to what you're going for. I started making jewelry in the year 2000. I started out with opal, and dinosaur bone didn't come till, I think it was 2006. The Helfrich collection then went up on eBay. Various sellers had it. Never heard of dinosaur bone. Didn't know there was petrified dinosaur bone. I was an opal person at that point in time. I joined a rock club, but I hadn't seen any good agates at that point. So I was, I'm in the Lake Superior area, so Lake Superior agates. Everything I had seen was kind of like lackluster, really didn't float my boat at that point. Eventually, I did start seeing killer agates, and I was like, okay, I got to get some of that. But dinosaur bone came up on eBay for the Helfrich collection. Since I'm mentioning him, I'm going to bring up his book. So Helfrich wrote, this is like the Bible for dinosaur bone. The American Dinosaur, The Vanishing of Gembone. So this is a book, 250 copies were made of it. They are really hard to come by now. Tom Helfrich is very well known in the dinosaur bone world. Even though he passed away, he's legendary. His collection is still being sold on eBay, pieces that came out of it. So as soon as I started seeing it on eBay, some amazing pieces came up, and I just had to get some of it. So I started buying it, and it, again, with dinosaur bone, it's almost like a limitless possibility of colors and patterns. And the cell walls can be black, they can be white, they can be clear. The cells themselves can have various details. It can be UV reactive. You can have the calcite be UV reactive that's in bone sometimes. You can have the chalcedony UV reactive. So if you're a UV mineral collector, you got that too. It seems to cover everything. It'd be opalized like the dinosaur stuff in Australia. So that was my holy grail of it. It was like, this stuff can be opalized too. So as I've gone through various rocks and minerals and things, dinosaur bone has kept my attention more than anything else. I love star sapphires. I love cat's eye gems. I love color change gems. But dinosaur bone is just so varied. You can have different cell size. You can have vertebra. You can have this peacock pattern from a dinosaur vertebra that is insane. And then it can be from an Allosaurus. It can be from, the various different dinosaurs too. I mean, I'm a reptile fan. So all of a sudden, now I have a dinosaur bone that looks absolutely beautiful. I was infatuated with dinosaurs when I was a kid. So you've now merged fossil dinosaur, beautiful thing. It can be turned into jewelry. It can be a collector specimen. It's one of those things where I don't understand how it isn't more popular.
Oh my God, I need that.
That's the one I'm wearing right now.
Is it really?
But,
wow.
Yes, but again, that's a quartz capped piece, absolutely natural color. Capping it doesn't change the color of the bone, and just insane, beautiful. How can you not think that is pretty? And again, it comes in so many colors. There's a rainbow. Yes, there is. There's a Disdero agate on the far right, but everything else is completely natural.
The depth that cap gives it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a magnifying glass almost.
Yes, it completely acts that way, especially if I dome it really high. I have a really cool one.
I don't know if you can see really well right here.
My screen's really tiny.
Put your hand up next to it like this.
Yeah, there we go. Let's
like this.
This is a piece that I got from somebody that I know about 3 years ago when I first started doing any cabbing, and you can see it has a little bit of a polish to it.
Yeah,
but, and I do basically pop sockets for people, so I'm not trying to get that high end. But referencing what you just had right there that we just showed versus this right here, if this had a cap on it, if this was hexstalled, would make that color in that pop to a degree that it just changes the whole structure and the whole look of that cap. And
it's just like putting it in water. Like if you
exactly,
put it in, it's amazing. And it adds durability to most bone too. Quartz is harder than bone. So it's like I said, it's like a win-win. Once I started doing it, I still make bone jewelry without the caps because the cap increases the price. It's a lot more work, but it's one of those things where if I want the bone to look as optimal as possible, it's capped. And again, you capture the exact pattern you see when you cap it. It's one of those things.
And it allows you to use a lot less material.
Wow.
Yes, it does. So that picture you just showed, Kirsten, is that one is I used acid to etch out the webbing, and I crushed up chrysocolla, mixed it with hextol, and put it into the cell walls. So you have this really bright blue contrasting with that. They're both almost neon in color. That like photo is almost exact. The pink one in the back, that one had voids in the cells, so the pink is actually glow in the dark. And on the bottom of it, you see it's like neon yellow. That is also glow in the dark. So there's a couple glow in the dark pigments I started using. This is another thing I started playing around with. I don't know. My mind wanders and I just start playing with stuff, and an idea pops in my head, and I just go for it sometimes. And
that one's fantastic. And this, oh my lord!
Wow. Yeah, that was for Bob Fennell. Still is a mentor and a great dealer. Absolutely wonderful guy. I did that piece with. If you go from the bone from the top left, for me is how I see it. It went Kenneth Kolb, Paul Clark, Don Wickham, who's passed away, Peggy Hoochin.
What?
Don was absolutely great.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, he passed away. That's been a kind of a hard one for me. Then we have the purplish one is Mark Buford. Then we have Steve Holmes. The yellow and red is from Bob Fennell himself. Then we have a piece from Mike Hankins, and then Robert Duncan, and then the last one is me. And then I did the center of it with a natural piece of dinosaur bone. So it's a desert varnish piece. And I wanted a natural piece in there too. And so I looked for a really flat piece with the desert varnish on it, and I put that in there. And on the back of that belt buckle, I hand engraved everyone's name on it. So I'll tell a little story about this, and if Bob Fennell's watching, he may laugh. I wanted to see Bob get this belt buckle because this was a surprise. So I got all these people together to do this for him, and I had Dawn Wickham deliver it. And I asked Dawn, so Bob, I'm sorry, this was all me. I asked Dawn to take a video of him opening it and seeing it. And Bob was not having that. So Dawn actually did get some video. I never saw it, but the camera was put away. And Bob, at that point in time, when I heard what Bob thought about it, when he told me it was one of the happiest moments of his life getting that belt buckle, which is exactly what the intention was. And the great thing about Bob is, like, he is such a great guy. He's been wonderful with information. Everybody that I talked to that contributed to this belt buckle that knew him was thrilled to play a part in it. So, it was one of those things where I was so happy to do it when it was also a nightmare to produce that piece. It was funny because, I asked for specifics. I had a completely different design in mind when I made it. And I asked for specific size pieces, specific thicknesses, and every piece of bone was different thickness, was a different size. So I had to make them work. And that's the design that I came up with.
It's like a family heirloom. I'm not even gonna lie. That's something that you pass down forever.
It's also funny too because I made the box that it went in, and I had somebody that was a friend at the time tell me, whatever you do, don't make a box. And I was like, I'm making a box. I gotta make a box. So I spent the next. Spent the next 12 hours making a box. I think pretty sure I wood burned a footprint on the bottom of it. Then I put it, and so it was in the box and in leather. So when you open it, and Bob's actually shown it to everybody that's come over his house, from what I know. So if you come over to Bob's house, you get to see the belt buckle. He'll hand the box and show it. I don't know. Again, Bob's a great guy. My daughter's met him. He's wonderful. So there are certain people in the dinosaur bone community who I've had absolutely wonderful experiences with. And Bob Fennell's one of them. Mark Buford's another one.
Yep.
Dawn Wickham was absolutely awesome. Yeah, that one's hard. I was hoping to help him with silversmithing because that was part of his dream with dinosaur bone. He had this amazing set of cabs that he had been cutting for years and years and years. And Dawn actually came to Bob Fennell's and Mike Hankins showed up. Bob was there, and we all sat and looked at Dawn's cabs, and he had such an amazing variety. Again, it's like with bone, it almost seems infinite, the possibilities of color combinations and things you can see. And Dawn had been cutting for I don't know how many years, collecting his whole life from what I know, and an absolutely wonderful individual. He had his little Chihuahua. One of his dogs would sniff out bone for him. Another one of his dogs would lead him back to his vehicle after he got lost. So, his dogs helped him with his collecting too. Yeah, Dawn was great.
Oh,
that was the first sapphire capped ring in 14 karat gold.
I love that pink. Pink bone and blue bone are my favorite.
That bone had such a wonderful array of colors.
Oh my lord, me and Dave were raving about this, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Me and Dave were freaking out about this piece.
I wish I could have got more of that bone. I got one little piece of that off of eBay.
Wow.
I paid under $40 for the slab. It wasn't a big slab. My wife, I kind of ran it by her. I bid over $200 on it. When I saw it, I was like, I gotta have that one. That one just stands out. And it's still to this day, that was over 13 years ago now. And still to this day, I look for bone that compares to that with pastel color range. And that one was just phenomenal. And
do you ever sell stuff and then you're like, longing for it back? Do you ever have that seller's remorse?
Yes.
When it,
There was a pendant that I produced out of that slab, and the pendant went to a wonderful client in Georgia, and she was opening a gallery, and she was going to call it the Turquoise Dinosaur, and she wanted to showcase my material, my jewelry, in her gallery. And so I ended up selling her pendant, that pendant that was from that bone, not that pendant you just showed, but a pendant from that bone, and a bunch of rings, she bought like a lot of jewelry. And then she just disappeared off the map, and I was like, what happened to her? And I found out she had passed away shortly after that. So she passed away, and so that none of it ever happened. And I don't know where the pendant went. If I could chase the pendant down and buy it back, I would. It was in 14 karat gold, white gold, like the ring. And it was, again, absolutely stunning pendant. That's a 18 karat gold ring I did. And that middle part of it, the client said that it reminded him of his wife's lips. And so I had to capture that cell. So again, I kept it towards the center of the cab and was able to capture that. That was 18 karat gold, brushed gold. Yeah, that was a fun one. I did earrings for him too, 2-sided earrings for his wife.
Tell me that.
I posted those recently.
I need some Mark S. Anderson plugs. That's what
I knew that was coming. I was waiting for it.
I actually had looked into some titanium to start plugs recently. Because, again, titanium has kind of become my addiction metal.
Oh, my God, that piece you just showed.
That was actual opalized bone. And I did actually able to touch and play with that stuff eventually in time.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Actually, insane.
And this came from Australia?
Yes, that's Australian bone. I did a piece for the miner, and he entered it into a competition in Australia, and I placed second. And that one was 18 karat white gold, yellow gold. I did alexandrites with it and some diamonds. I should have did a custom chain for it, but the price point, like when I'm using gold like that, and he thought he could just put it on a sterling chain. I think if it would have had a custom chain, it would have placed higher. I think it could have taken first place if I would have did it, the chain that I had in mind, but the chain would have added probably over $3,000 to the price of what I did already.
I think the rarity of the material would have won it anyway.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things too where later down the line you can always add it, So it's not like you can't add it to the pendant. And that stuff is just insane. I mean, it just glows. Again, the holy grail of bone. It's like neon. And those are my favorite colors. It's like purple and teal.
Purple's mine. Yeah.
Like, come on. How does it get better than that? I mean, I don't know. Great stuff comes out of the U.S. too. But that's just insane. I have the book that's in. That stuff's pictured in a book too. It's in the other. I have it in a different room.
So you have been published a lot then.
I have.
And a lot for me would be anything over one.
So the other book on dinosaur bone would be this one, Exotic Gems Volume 2 by Renee Newman. So I did a huge contribution to the chapter on dinosaur bone on this. Also, Mark Buford helped me with it. So big shout out to Mark Buford for his contributions in that. Lamont Ecker was another person during that time period that went back and forth with him. He's passed away since then. He was another great guy, like great about information and sharing. And he was the best eBay seller I've ever come across, because he would throw up these pieces of bone. The Ernest Shirley collection was being sold off, and he was going and buying pieces from the Ernest Shirley collection, and he would throw them on eBay, and sometimes they'd have a buy it now price, but a lot of times he would auction them, and it would be me, Mark Buford. I mean, there'd be pretty much anyone who was a bone person at that point in time and bought bone off of eBay. It was like the heyday of eBay for bone. and they would sit and watch his auctions, and it was like you had to be the quickest for the buy it nows because they sold instantly. And yeah, he was great. Another person I wish I would have been able to meet in person, but I wasn't.
You know, I just saw Jaws Jr. Just commented, said he's never worked with bone and he would like to. And for those out there who really want to get in, you know, not all bone is considered gem bone, but not all of it is ultra expensive either. Find you a piece of it that you can get a little bit cheaper. Don't be afraid to experiment. I have some that I bought as cheap as $10 a pound about 3 or 4 years ago. It's a little calcitic. It's going to, once I get the oil cooked out of it, it will go in the vacuum chamber with some cactus juice.
It'll be great.
And we'll experiment with it that way. It's kind of what I'm into right now. So yeah, for those of you, you know, I know dinosaur bone sounds like it must be super expensive, but not all of it is. Some of it you can get at a fairly decent price.
The other thing with what you said, Dave, is there's been pieces I've come across in those cheap sections and calcified. Calcite is a good indicator of color. And if something can pop up, if you get a rough piece of bone and you cut it, you never know what can come up. And this goes the other direction too. You can have an absolutely stunning piece of bone where you see the face of it and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to, like, for me, it's like I can make so many pieces of jewelry out of that if it's not a collector specimen in my book. And I've had pieces where I cut the face off and it just turns to crap. And you know, you can have it showing at both ends. I found green and yellows sometimes seem to be like more surface colors a lot of the time. Right. Not always, but I've had a few pieces where green and yellow and it was just on the surface. And once I got into the bone, everything went away and it was not what I was expecting. So
a little tiny piece of black bone. It was like black on the outside. Yeah. I got it really cheap. And me and Andrew got back and I cut it open and it was yellow and red with fortifications in every cell on the inside.
It's crazy. It's fun cutting them like that too. I mean,
it's like cutting agates.
It is. You never know what you can get, even when the outside shows certain things. Hey, I'll add some tips for picking rough. If you're going to buy rough dinosaur bone, here's a couple things. I'll talk about this since, you know, a lot of people are interested in dinosaur bone that are interested in my work. When you're buying rough, if you can put it in water, if it bubbles, it's going to be very porous. If it doesn't bubble, it's going to be most likely a little more solid. With bone too, let me see if I can dig something up real quick in my background. I'm in my bone room, so there's all sorts of stuff in here.
I love the name of your room.
I want a bone room.
Here we go.
Right into the gutter.
Let's see, get this to show. This piece right here
is
kind of an example. You can see voids in the cells. Let's see if I can show real well. Okay, it has voids in the cells and stuff, and you'll also see with rough sometimes, like, this is all white on the outside. It's got a nice desert varnish on it. Let's see, I do have water in here. So this is the outside of this bone. So you're not really seeing much. I have, there's some epoxy stuff right here. You can ignore that. But this was bone that I saw enough. I mean, you can see some color under magnification with this. But on the other side that is cut, this goes back to what you can see in bone. This is a very... here, let me get some light on this. It's very, very pretty bone, and it's let's see.
It almost looked
purple. There we go. Look at that.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
So this has all sorts of colors.
The colors.
Yellows. Pastel yellows, love it.
The more colors you get in your bone, the higher the value.
And also the bigger the cells are, the more details you have, like all of it can really make things pop. And the contrast, when you have that nice bright orange and yellow with blue right next to it and dark webbing, like those are things that you don't see very often.
It's fantastic.
And if you're somebody who wants to play with bone, one of the it's not that it's super cheap or anything, but red black bone is usually attainable. It's not that expensive usually. The higher end blues usually get more expensive. Certain cuts of bone get more expensive, like vertebra. That's where things start changing a lot. But another thing with purchasing rough bone, if you're at a show and you see a bunch of bone slabs in water, you're going to be able to see the details of that bone really well. But what you want to do is take those slabs out of the water that you like and let them dry and see if any fractures appear, see if like how the webbing reacts. Some webbing, this is where porous webbing can sometimes like throw itself in your face. Sometimes you'll see bone wet and you'll pull it out of water and you'll watch the webbing suck up water. Or bone's dry and you put water on it, sometimes the webbing will just suck up water. And like I said, that's one of the weakest points of most bone is the webbing. It can be taken over by chalcedony, it can be silicified, but not very often. A lot of times it's stable enough to last a while, but like I said, I've had it etch out in pieces. With rough bone, you'll see it. If you have that desert varnish, a lot of times you'll see the cells exposed, and they'll be where the webbing is, there'll be voids. And that's a good indicator that that bone is going to have issues over time with the webbing if it isn't sealed. And you'll see it on a lot of specimens. I mean, when I first started doing this, I purchased all sorts of collector specimens. You know, with Lamont Ecker on eBay, that's what everything was. It was pretty much these big polished pieces, and cyanoacrylate or hot stuff or whatever was used on most of it. So there would be yellowing and cracks where that stuff was used. That was another reason why Hextall became a thing for me, is how can you do a better treatment that lasts, where things aren't chipping out, things aren't yellowing, and it's a long-term treatment.
Now, Mark,
it's not quick.
Have you used cactus juice yet to do any of the bone that you work with?
I have cactus juice, but I talked with one of my friends about it who uses it, and I'm still going to try it. But for the most part, with what I do, most of the bone I use is solid enough where cactus juice really isn't going to benefit me. The Hextall just seals everything up and does everything that I need, so cactus juices would just be an added step.
Okay.
With a lot of porous bone or calcified bone, and again, I have cactus juice. I plan on trying it out, but I just have not got around to it. Right now, I've been trying to get caught up on customs, and it's been like my biggest challenge because I'm currently not taking on any new customs. I've been telling everybody no, which usually isn't what I do. I've even told repeat customers no, which is something that I've always liked. They've always had to shoe in, even when I've been backed up and like, oh, can I get something from you? Oh, sure, John, you've ordered 5 pieces from me before. I'm going to let you in. But I've been saying no to everyone now because I have a backlog of custom commission pieces right now that is way more than I'm comfortable with. And they're all high-end pieces. And people have waited way too long as it is right now. And like I said, I'm working on a platinum ring that I just keep. There's been things where this is all new. I'm doing an old design in a new way, and it's just been one thing after another. But I think now I have all the kinks worked out. I broke the sapphire on it on this last round. I had sharp edges, and I shouldn't have. I had the thought before I tried to push it into the setting of, I'm going to get some diamond sandpaper. I went and looked for just straight regular sandpaper that was diamond abrasive and not the dots that are covering things. And I just wanted some 1200 grit that I could use by hand just to soften the sharp edges. And I couldn't find it. And I got some regular sandpaper. It didn't work on the sapphire. And so I was like, oh, well, it should work anyway. And I tried to jam it in the setting, and I had 2 little edges chipped. So now I got to start over again with the sapphire cap and all that stuff again. And again, that's part of doing custom commissions. It's one of those things where if you're going to do customs, you got to accept the fact that stuff can go wrong, things break, you got to do it over. And depending on what level you want to do it, it's just, you got to eat it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and you can't be afraid to do it, or you'll never get there where you can. I mean, that's
yeah.
Where I'm at right now. I'm, compared to most people, I'm not an artist. I took stickman as art in college and failed stickman. So that's it's harder for me. But I had a pottery instructor whom I'm still friends with that I have taken his class multiple times. And what Bert
Yeah.
told me one time, he said, look, he said, sometimes you have to practice to become an artist. And so what he meant by that is you have to jump in and just start doing it. You're going to mess up pieces. If you always practice on something cheap, then you will never get to the point where you feel like you can do it on something that's a little more expensive. You've got to delve into that somewhere. And I know you probably went through that same process. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is beginning to do that little bit more tedious and more expensive material.
Yeah. The thing too is it's not like the lesson doesn't ever stick with you with cheaper material, but when you screw up something really nice, it's hard to forget the lesson you were taught.
You tend not to do it again.
Yes, it sticks in your brain. Like I now that I know, like I said, this last thing with the sapphire and doing that particular setting, when I do them in the future, those edges are going to be taken care of. Like I said, it's been one thing after another at this point, and you know, as I move along, I'll get it down. It doesn't matter. I know that I'll get it down with everything else that I've done. With the capping, with turning bone to make it look like it has opal or glow in the dark bone, or various other things I've done. It's been a lot of trial and error. And yeah, Dave, just you got to keep doing it. You got to go at it. You got to grab things you like and be like, I see this in my head. Time to make it happen.
Right.
Even when you're cringing some days, just take that next step.
I'm good at circles.
Yeah.
I've been making pop sockets now for 3 years because of the charity that we run. We buy Rock Tumblers for kids who have autism. And so we got into it by accident. I was looking for something one day. I'm thinking, you know, what can we do to raise funds? And I met somebody through, I don't remember what I was going on, that said, well, you know, what do you do? Can you make a pop socket? And I thought, what's a pop socket? I didn't even know what a pop socket was. And then I saw Lapidary Dave one day. He came up with a video, and he said, hey, I'm going to show you a down and dirty way to make a pop socket. So, matter of fact, he calls me the king of the pop sockets because that's just about seems like all I do. And most of the time I do a pretty good job of them. But it's that one thing that I do better than anything else that I do is those circles. And I'm like you. Sometimes they're not perfect, and it irritates me that either the girdle is off a little bit or you'll see a flat spot around the edge. But then I have people who say, no, I like that flat spot, or I like it being a little oblong. It looks more natural that way. So you're always going to have somebody for those things that you don't feel like are quite up to the quality that you like.
Yeah. And some people appreciate imperfections. Like,
right.
With bone that has voids in the cells. Like, I used to hate that stuff, and you know, now I utilize it by filling cells with stuff. But it can also be pretty. You can have voids in the cells where there's druzy sparkles in it.
Right.
You can have voids in the cells where, you know, they add to an element of depth. It can be like you can have a bunch of cells with voids, and again, you have just a completely different look. It's just all going to depend. I don't always fill voids, but now I look for bone with voids to fill it. And I don't know. Now I know a few bone sellers who are like, yeah, well, now I'm going to charge more for bone with voids, seeing that you've, you know, done that, you know. And now that, you know, I do have people that watch what I do, and I do see people, you know, do some of the stuff I do, which is why I put some of the, you know, a lot of the information out there. I want people to be successful. I want people to try things. You know, all of this is all of us. You know, it's one of those things where I wish the whole world was doing what they love and being successful with it. And if I can help somebody get to that place, I don't want my work copied, but you can take elements of what I do and implement them into your own style. You know, that's the ideal. We all copy to begin with certain things when we're at certain levels. And, you know, eventually you hit your own stride and you do your own thing. And that's what you want to do. And for me, there's a quarter, a T-Rex quarter I did.
That's gorgeous.
I have 3 coins of yours, and I love them.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate the support, and those,
yeah, those are mine and my kids. Those are awesome.
Yeah, I have some of those in Etsy right now. Those are flame painted copper. And again, like for me too, I was told don't do everything. Don't like follow all of these various things that I like to do. Oh, I want to make a box. Don't do that. Oh, I want to make it glow in the dark. Don't do that. Oh, I want to opalize it. Don't do that. do it. If you have it in your heart and you want to try it, do it. I've made it glow in the dark. I'm now working on the highest end glow in the dark piece I've ever made. It's beautiful. I've been going slow because there's certain parts of it that I've had like challenges with because I keep upping my game. But yeah, you just keep trying the things you love. There's somebody out there who will share it, and yeah, maybe it may not hit, but if you like it, screw it. You know, isn't that the whole, like, art's very therapeutic.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of people who've used art to get out of addiction and find something healthy to fall into. And the longer I've done this, the more people I've come across where it's like, this is a healthy thing to do instead of, you know, drugs or alcohol, or, you know, it's another, you can create, you can do things that you never thought you could do if you just keep going down that road. And, you know, Dave, keep doing those things that you are scared to do at times and stop walking in a circle.
Well, Lapidary started out saving my marriage because I was away from my wife and she was happy about that. But now the amount of money I spend in the Lapidary is about to have the opposite effect, I think.
It can at times, but it depends. You're doing a great cause. That I love that. That's wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know, I grew up poor, so it's funny because I grew up like we were homeless at times, and the one present I always wanted, and I asked my mom for time and time again, was a rock tumbler, and I never got one. And my birthday is really close to Christmas, so I got the birthday Christmas combo present because I also had many brothers and a sister,
right. And
so like my birthday, not much was ever spent there. I remember times where it was like, I remember one time my mom picked out something. I had 2 things at Toys R Us that I liked, and they were each $5. She asked, well, what would you want for your birthday? And I thought she was joking. And then my birthday came, and then I got the one thing, and then I was mad because I liked the other thing better. But
well, and that's why
yeah.
the rock tumblers that we give, we actually use Lortone rock tumblers from Kingsley North.
Yep.
We get them that 3A kit. It comes with a pound of each grit and all of that. And we do that so that rock tumbler will last a really long time.
Yes.
Because I grew up like you. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. My dad was a trucker. I used to be a trucker. You know, it's hard to support kids, and especially in the 60s and 70s. And so we knew what it was like. I mean, we have lived in a shack out on a piece of property in Utah even at times because that's what we had. And so, you know, a lot of the families that we work with have kids, and they're the same way. They don't have much. They can't go buy that stuff for these kids. And I became a special education teacher and started finding out I have a son who has autism. Didn't know it at the time. And so, yeah, it kind of changes your perspective in what you're doing and why you're doing it.
It does, definitely. Anybody else have questions for me that you're curious about with what I do, or?
I don't know what I missed, so I will have to go back and watch the video. But I'm so thrilled that you're here, and I really hope that we can get you back on for another episode because I want to learn more about your engraving and your coin stuff because that is really, really interesting to me.
It's fun. Coins.
I mean, I love the dinosaur stuff. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan scheduled me next year, so I'm coming back.
Excellent. Good job, Ryan.
Go ahead, Kirsten.
I was just going to ask, do you have a new skill that you're learning to master right now?
Right now, I'm having my butt kicked by platinum and what I'm doing there. But I pretty much, like I said, I think I have everything figured out. It wasn't just that it was platinum. There was many different aspects to it. But there's another thing that I have in my toolbox now that I have not moved forward with because I've been working on commissions. And that is I've started playing with niobium, another metal that takes you can anodize it neon colors. And that is something I got a laser welder earlier this year, and it took me 4 months to figure out what I had in my head, how to do it. So I failed so much at that. Didn't know whether it was going to be possible. And laser welders are not cheap. So, I mean, it's not that I couldn't do other things with the machine, but that was the main thing that was in my head where I was like, oh, I can't wait to try that. And so getting niobium to weld to other metals so that I can then color it was one of the things that I've been working on. Let's see, anything else in my head that I have that...
you know what? I wanted my ears. That was way cool. And the way you made that video was so amazing.
Well, that video was, again, me fighting perfectionism.
Here we go.
Our trip to Maine, we do and visit Grandpa, my wife's dad. And I did 3 quick videos before I left for Portland, Maine. My wife and daughter were already there, so I was trying to catch up on some commissions before I left. And I was up late that night, and I did Elvis. I did a Mohawk Penny, Elvis, a punk Elvis, or not a punk Elvis, but a punk Lincoln. And then I did a Lincoln with a mullet. So I did 3 coins really quick, shot the video. And I was like, well, I can release these on TikTok when I get in Maine, so I'll have content to release while I'm there. So I get to Maine, and Elvis is the first one I'm going to drop. And even in that video, the edited version, I had to cut that down so much. It was out of focus for so much of the video. And if I would not have been in Portland, Maine, that video wouldn't have seen the light of day. And on TikTok, it has over 3 million views. So that video paid me money just by views. And on Instagram, it has over 5 million views. And it going on Instagram, I went from a little over 1,500 followers to now I think I have 12,000 followers on Instagram. And that penny is a majority of it. So again, I had something that wasn't perfect and I pushed it out anyway. I absolutely it was so hard for me to put that video up. I was like, do we really do this one? I was not happy with it, and I did it. And like I said, it blew up. It was funny because on Instagram, it took a while to blow up. It didn't happen the first week that I put it on. Usually, like with TikTok, I know within 2-3 days whether something's going to happen on there. And on Instagram, it took a little while. And then all of a sudden, I was in Denver doing the Denver show, and I think it was 2 or 3 days into the Denver show. All of a sudden, it had 500,000 views, and I was like, "What the heck?" And it just kept going and going and going. And Instagram, unlike TikTok, Instagram seems to keep pushing the content. TikTok usually it has a week span, a 1 week time span, unless it's something that I put up that went really viral. Like I had one that went over 10 million views. I've had a few get many million views where they stay going for a little while, but usually a majority of that is at the beginning in TikTok. Instagram started paying now too. Not sure how they're going to pay compared to TikTok, but yeah, that's another aspect of doing art where, for me, I, again, have to do all of this stuff myself. So TikTok has been kind of advertising. It's led people to my Etsy, which we have a website. I haven't taken the time to figure it out. I need to because it's much more professional. And then I'm not giving Etsy their kickback if I'm just doing it straight through our website. But yeah, Etsy was with TikTok. It's been really good in social media, period. And back to, doing things that people told me not to do. I was told never to do the videos of my work and post them. Again, just don't do that. I was told, no, that's a waste of your time. And I was like, I thought it was cool. I used it initially when I was doing it. I was showing clients what I was working on. And I'd be like, here, this is the process I just did. Send them a video and, show them where I was at or what I screwed up. And, hey, I just need to do this over again. I still do it, unfortunately. I will still make mistakes. I will still fail until I get it right. But, yeah, so video has been, for me, a very important part of what I do. And also, too, when you're creating your own content, it's funny, too. With TikTok, I'm going to put this out there for the other people that are artists that have work and they're intimidated by putting stuff out there. On TikTok, when I got on TikTok, I didn't care what anyone thought of what I was doing. So I didn't worry about somebody dogging me about a glow-in-the-dark pendant, or me making it look like opalized bone, or me screwing up a penny, or whatever. I just put the content out. Even though I had the perfectionist part of me like fighting that, I still put the content out. And it was like a unedited version of me. You also got the smart ass me when people would say that's illegal, and because again, you can comment, you can do video comments to their comments on TikTok. So, you know, when somebody would dig at me and be like, oh, that's a tractor tire, that's not a ring, or, you know, whatever comment it was one of those things where it was just like, oh, I don't know you. On Facebook, I knew these people in person, a lot of them. So, you know, when so-and-so and Joe Schmo, who I've met and hung out with, is telling me my work is crap and that is the worst idea ever, it hits a little harder than somebody passing you on the street telling you your pants look ugly. You know what I mean? And so if you can get past that and just put the content out, get over perfectionism and just be consistent, and not, well, it's not necessarily even being consistent at times, because this is another area on TikTok where I have not been consistent, and my wife has gotten on me about it, where like right now when I do TikTok, it gets really hard to keep up with social media. I do posts on Facebook, I do posts on TikTok, and I get so many comments like between all of them that I would spend hours and hours and hours responding. Like on TikTok, there's certain threads where there's thousands of comments. I can't, and I've had to hit a point now, and I just realized this recently, that I can't respond to every comment even though I want to. I got to let stuff go. I just, you know, and I'm not the guy who doesn't follow anybody and doesn't comment on other people's work, because I like to showcase other artists. If I see Ryan do something cool and I saw his post and it's for sale or something, I'll post it. I'll be like, hey, this is, you know, something Ryan did. Or if Dave posts a really cool pop socket, I'd post that too. If I, you know, if we were following each other and I saw it, or, you know, Matt put some specimen up that he, you know, some absolutely amazing mineral that I'd never seen and stuff. Like, I think like all of us should do that. And it's like so many people, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. No, look at Joe over there. Joe's doing awesome stuff. Like, hey, let's help Joe out today. Like, it doesn't like all of it though. Like, Ryan, you played a part in the trash cleanup thing that I did in the Gembone Lovers group. Yep. And I really appreciate that. And like that's basically the heart of what I want to do, is like, let's make the environment better. Let's make everybody better. Let's make each other better. Let's hold each other up. You know, if somebody asks me for advice on something, I'm not going to tear you down and say, oh, that is the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. I will say, hey, well, that part's really good. You can work on that area. Do you want advice on this? Is there any way I can help you? You know, if you're doing social media and you ask for advice on that, I can give advice on that too. And be like, well, what's your end goal? You know, for me, I've kind of fought with the social media thing, especially on TikTok, because it's really easy to be cheeky and get things to take off. You know, for me to produce viral content with a coin on TikTok is not extremely hard. But I've also discovered that I can do tutorial type videos and get them to take off as well. And I'm leaning more and more towards that. I haven't posted much on TikTok in the last few months. Since Denver, I've kind of like held off on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and tried to hunker down and get back to commissions, because again, posting, I think I need to hit a better balance, but first I need to get more caught up on my commission work. But again, like I'll be doing the trash cleanup thing again next year, and next year I'll probably post it on TikTok as well. I was scared to post it on TikTok with 100,000 people following me. I was like, am I going to be able to keep track of all the people that enter? You know, how am I going to do that? And so I was like, well, the Gembone Lovers group was over 4,000 at that point in time. So I was intimidated by that too. I didn't know how many people would play a part. And I didn't realize that some people were going to be scared to take a video of themselves, you know, cleaning up trash, and then, you know, the time span of that, and talked with a few other people. And I think that I'm going to do some auctions too, besides the trash cleanup way to enter. So I think that I'm going to try to find some ocean cleanup or some various other things to contribute to when it comes to like ways to help the earth and the collecting. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I've collected rocks and stuff, I find trash and I pick it up. And,
Oh, man.
you know, to begin with, the first time I came across it, me and my daughter were out and I was complaining about it. And I always tell her, don't complain, do something. And I looked at her and I'm like, what do I say, Chloe? And I'm like, don't complain, do something. Let's go back to the house, get a trash bag and clean up this pond because we were out catching frogs. And then I had the idea to like post and, you know, get other people to do it. You know, and can I give away a prize and get other people involved? How much of an impact can I make in the environment with my social media following? You know, what can I do that's good that would help that? What can I do good to help, again, like various other people that are struggling, whether it's autism, mental health, addiction? Like there needs to be more information and more love where people, you know, a lot of people don't realize that addiction is disconnection. So when you're dealing with a family member or somebody who's struggling, you know, I'm not saying you do things to help them with, like, if they're an alcoholic, you don't go buy them tons of alcohol or something and support them in that way. But you can still be there and say, I love you. You know, I can't be around you at this moment, but I love you. And, you know, I see you're struggling. If I can help you, I'm here. You know, you just reach out in ways. Try not to judge. You don't know. A lot of people went through stuff that we don't I'm not in their shoes. Right. I don't know what drove them to addiction. And when I worked at the casino, for many years, and I had to deal with addiction on every level, whether it came to gambling, alcohol, drugs, sex. Like it was all there. It was a cesspool of addiction. Hey, what addiction do you have? Let's go to a casino. You can find something there that fills that addiction. Most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess when I was at the casino, if you were a rock addict, you could have came to me, and I usually had a rock in my pocket that you could have seen. So even at that point in time, you know, you rock heads could have came to the casino and yes. So, but again, like, you know, there's so much in life where we don't know where somebody came from, and if you can help, whether it's like showing somebody something beautiful or just being nice and like lifting somebody up in a way that just makes them smile, do that. So, you know, that's what I would like to promote with my art and what I do. And I'd like to have more people do that. It'd be nice. I see a lot of people tear people down or don't want somebody to get attention because, you know, it takes away their attention. No, give that person attention at that point in time. Maybe they need it. You know, maybe they're a narcissist and they don't need it. But like even then you can send them love and move on.
Narcissists need love too. They just don't know it.
They do.
We're almost ready to wrap the show up, but we do have quite a few people watching right now. And I just want to encourage you to drop a comment. Let us know where you are watching from. And do you love dinosaur bone or a different kind of rock? Drop that in there too. And that way we can have the drawing just be a little bit wider. So I do have a question about your motivation. Mark, what is your deepest motivation for coming in? Oh, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous, Dave. Sorry.
I'm just giving everybody a sneak peek while you're talking. Go ahead.
Oh, what's my deep motivation for what again, Kirsten?
For your, I don't know how to put it, but for your like passion for what you're doing right now. Like, what is the driving force behind everything you do?
Madness.
Welcome to the club on that one.
I'm not sure how to answer that because that's what it feels like at times.
It does.
My brain keeps me up at night at times when it comes to rocks. I love art. I grew up and we didn't have much. I went to 24 schools before I graduated, and art was the one class I always loved. I could always lose myself in it. I could enjoy whether it was drawing, whether it was clay. I lost a lot of ceramic. Like for some reason, teachers kept my ceramic stuff. But some of that too, I'm going to blame on my mom's moving. But I went to 24 schools before I graduated. So like art was always a passion of mine. Even when I was working at the casino as a pit boss, you know, even before I discovered Lapidary, it's funny because I beaded things. I did some woodworking stuff here and there, but I always made something. And I don't know, there's just a satisfaction with creating, whether you make furniture or woodwork or lapidary but too, what I do brings people joy. You know, they love the pieces I make. And it's not just the jewelry. You know, I do collector specimens where they have display stands and, you know, try to do things where there's just everything's enhanced. Everything's beautiful. There's thought behind almost every process I do. With the display stands, I like using maple burls, and I'm very picky about those. Yeah, so I don't know what else to call it. Maybe it's just my form of addiction. It's something I've always loved doing. It's funny because my brother gave me crap when I first started making jewelry. I had a few family members be like, "What are you doing?" And I told him I don't care whether I make money at this or not. I love doing it. I couldn't stop myself even if nothing came of it. I still love doing this. I still love cutting rocks. I still love making silver. Everything. It's just. I don't know. I love teaching too. That's another thing with it. Like when I was at the casino, I taught people how to become blackjack dealers and, you know, did that stuff, taught people how to supervise. It's teaching's fun. I've had various apprentices. I've learned a lot when it comes to having apprentices though. You can't just, it's not that, it's funny though, because I've worked line jobs too, where I think that just about anything can be broke down into steps where almost anyone can do it. If you just learn like simple preforming, you know, or gems, and then you learn the doming process. When you start breaking things down into little tiny steps, like a lot of people say I'm so talented. It's not talent. It's a tenacity to not give up. It's just to keep going at it. It's just to keep working at it. It's to fall flat on my face and bleed at times. And get up and still go at it. And it's one of those things where sometimes it sucks. And sometimes, you know, it's really disheartening when you do wreck something that you had in your head as it was turning out to be beautiful. You know, Dave, back to you. But it's one of those things where you just, I don't know. I'm driven to do it. I see the smile on people's faces, like the Bob belt buckle. You know, when he said to me that was one of the happiest moments of his life was when Dawn brought him that buckle. Like that hits you, you know, and Bob had done so many, like he always answered my questions. He was on eBay at that time. That's how I dealt with him. So I dealt with him through eBay messaging to begin with, and then social media. He then got on Facebook. So I was able to deal with him a little on Facebook, but Bob always answered questions on bone, and Bob always had really good bone. So Bob is a great source of dinosaur bone. He's also a very knowledgeable person who's been collecting since he was a kid. And, you know, now he just moves through collections and stuff. But, yeah, you meet wonderful people. You get to share your art. To me, it's a social thing. It's I don't know, on so many levels, it's good. I look at creating as healthy. I think a lot of people that are struggling with certain things, if they're able to take time and create something in their mind and they're just don't let themselves be held back, I think that they will find it's a healthy outlet, whether you crochet or do puzzles or like you can create whatever is in your head if you keep working at it and do the little steps. Not saying that I could become an NBA all-star or anything, but with certain dreams, you know, when it comes to art and creating stuff, I think that everyone has the ability to learn the various elements, whether it's, you know, hand engraving, cutting gems, silversmithing, goldsmithing, working with platinum, working with titanium, all of it.
Yeah, silversmithing is my next thing to conquer. That's what I want.
Yeah,
I have a picture in my mind of a beautiful blue mountain jasper with just the right orbs in it, the dark and the light together, with silver around the edges of it. Just one of those things. And so, yeah.
My advice to you, Dave, when it comes to silversmithing, get a torch, and the first thing you should do is melt some silver. As soon as you start realizing at what temperature and what it looks like when you melt it, that to me is one of the best ways to get started. You just grab some silver and start melting. And I tell this to anyone, get some jump rings. They're nice and cheap. Like you can start out making a chain, just melt jump rings to begin with and start, you know, making chain. Okay. I had a friend recently contact me and she was like, I'm kind of scared. I'm like, just do it. Just to start out with, melt silver. You can't screw that up. Your torch can screw it up if it's not good enough, but you can't screw up melting silver. So just get out your torch and just start melting. And then
do you have a
after
beginner's torch that you could recommend?
a lot of people use those
just use
butane
the
torches.
kitchen one. Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, I tried using a butane torch once, and I guess I've been spoiled, and I bought a good torch right off the bat. So to me, going back to that is kind of hard. But my wife, when I met her, she had one of those plumber's acetylene air torches, and for silversmithing, those are great. They actually work really well. And originally, when she moved here, we were trying to figure out what to bring and what not to bring. And it was like, do we bring an acetylene tank and stuff? And I had my little torch, so we ended up leaving that stuff behind. But Bob Fennell, the belt buckle I did for him, I needed an air acetylene torch. Oxyacetylene would have worked too, but the air acetylene, when you're heating up silver, you have to heat up all the silver. And that belt buckle was big. The metal was thick, so I had to heat the whole thing up, and my little torch could not do it. So I had to purchase that air acetylene torch, and they work great for silver. They also, their flame is a softer heat, so you slowly work the silver up to temperature versus like a little torch, which heats it up really fast, and then you can melt it. Like, you don't have much time from point A to point B once it hits that temp. Where the air acetylene torches, they're slower, but again, you can learn to control them and do fine stuff as well.
Well, and you answered a question for me right there, because I've been looking at different ones, and I've come across the air acetylenes and didn't know anything about them. So actually, you answered a question for me right there. I'm fortunate that my wife is a chemist for a well-known college, and they donated to me a 2,000-degree oven that I've got sitting in storage, waiting to learn to do all of this. So I'm a little ahead of the ball game. It's something I'm looking to get into next.
Good.
Awesome. I think we had a super amazing show today, and I am so excited to have Mark back next year in our second season. I think Ryan has our giveaway names and numbers written down, and he told me that we need you, Mark, to pick a number between 1 and 11. And Dave, why don't you show 11. What everybody's going to have a chance to win.
Let me open it up here so that some people who don't know what a pop socket is. So a pop socket goes on the back of your cell phone, and you'll see adults and kids alike carrying them around, and you can hold your cell phone like this, or you can put it in one of those V holders. I make them out of exotic stone jasper. This right here is amethyst sage. Comes from Central Oregon, or at least where I pick it up does. It actually comes from on the border of Oregon, Nevada. And so this will be our giveaway tonight.
So pretty. I love it.
Sure that is.
All right. I'm going to do a heads and tails coin flip for it. The numbers are going to be 7 and 11. Heads is going to be 11. Tails is going to be 7. I'm going to go with the casino theme. And we have heads. So 11. 11 will be the number.
It is Carmen.
Carmen, awesome. Good job.
Congratulations, Carmen.
Carmen, look what you won.
That's awesome.
So, Carmen, go ahead and send an email over to our Rock Talk Lapidary at gmail.com, and I'll get your address and we'll get that mailed out to you. So I just enjoyed this show so much. If we could have everybody just give us your last words and leave us with your final comments, that'd be great. And then I'll put you in the green room.
Well, I'm going to plug Mark a little bit. If you guys are not following Gembone Lovers, you really should be. I've been following for 2 or 3 years there. And it's a great group, and you'll get to see the work and that other people. What I really love about the group is nobody cares whether or not you're a professional. You can post stuff. Nobody will complain that your picture might not be the greatest, or maybe you don't do the best work. They're a great group to go and get to know people. And Mark does excellent work that he posts in there.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. Oh, man, the season's over.
I know. It's crazy.
Sad. I'm excited to see you guys next season. Be looking out for Glacier Bros on Facebook. We go 4 or 5 days a week. Sell different rough. We have Dino Bone too, not quite Mark S. Anderson quality. He's got some crazy stuff. But come have a laugh, have a joke. I'll miss you guys. I'll see you next season.
See you next
Thanks, Ryan.
year. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, I tell you, I saw this comment pop up, Mark, and I thought that you should hear it. I don't know if you can see it. You said your screen was small. And I'm just about to turn 50 and my eyes are getting shot. But it says, Mark had this motivational short video that he made somewhat recently, and it really helped me pull out of my funk. Appreciate what he does on a one-to-one basis, being a beacon in the community. I thought that was a pretty good statement, you know.
Thank you.
It says a lot about you, right? So you speak my language. I'm an artist, right? I have been an artist since I was little. I'm not one that does something half-ass. I'm not one that kind of tiptoes into something. I go full bore. So I've gone down the road. Now I collect, right? I have been a collector. I've got a pile of rough that I have been eyeing for some time and amassing for some time. And I'm about to start this ball rolling. You know, I've got wheels and flat laps and facet and all that. So I'm about to go down this road. You inspire me a lot. I'll be following you. You know, I've got a lot to learn. I could talk to you for probably a week straight. You know, I'm that way. I'm a concrete artisan by trade. That's what I do. I make about anything out of concrete. You know,
Nice.
Literally anything out of concrete. A lot of it's custom carved. You know, so I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing from you again. I'll send you a message from my personal account because I'd like to connect with you, pick your brain on something.
Yeah. And feel free to reach out to me. You know, I say this to pretty much everyone, you know. When somebody reaches out to me and asks, hey, I'm trying to learn this specific thing or whatever, it's very rare I don't respond or find some way, whether you get on the phone with me and, you know, I go over things depending on what it is. Sometimes it's a quick thing where I can shoot a video and be like, hey, Matt, you know, you want to learn this? This will help with it. I enjoy seeing people create and having, you know, some issue figured out and then see what they do with it. And I don't know. I think we all enrich each other when we enrich each other. I think it's great. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you more, Matt, about that. So yeah, reach out.
It says a lot about your character when you simply say, you know, promote other artists, right? That's huge to me. Because we shouldn't push each other away, right? We should try to push each other out.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, you.
Matt.
Appreciate your time as well, Matt.
All right. So, Mark, what are your final words to the guests watching right now?
Everyone, thank you for spending time out of your day to watch this. I really appreciate it. I do. Again, I would like to say, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the U.S. It's not just the U.S., but around the world. There's a lot of people struggling. So if you do know somebody who's struggling in one way or another, reach out. Tell them you love them. Take some time. You know, like, it really hurt when Don passed this year. Don was a really nice guy, a great collector. And, you know, I wanted to help him with silversmithing. We had gone back and forth. And, you know, I was going to go out and visit him, and COVID hit and everything. And we don't know when somebody's last day is going to be. And, you know, when somebody is struggling in some way or another or lashes out at you, sometimes they're going through stuff that we just don't understand. So, you know, promote other artists that you enjoy their work and reach out to those who you see are struggling. Just do what you can to make the world a better place. We're only here for a short amount of time. And yeah, thank you for taking the time out of your day. And I hope that something I said helps someone out there in some way or another. And, you know, that should be all of our goals, is to how can we lift each other up? How can we make this a better place? Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. And
we are just
Kirsten,
so
for
excited
having
to
me.
have had you here.
Kirsten.
So excited. Thank you for saying my name right, too. That's awesome. That doesn't happen too often. Yeah, we're very grateful, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. So thank
Look
you,
forward
Mark.
to seeing you again too. Thank
Wow. So what an awesome show today. If you are watching on the playback on YouTube, or if you are on Spotify, sorry, my brain stopped working for a second. But if you're on Spotify and you're listening, awesome. Thank you. And we will see you next year. We'll be back January 12th. We have shows lined up every Wednesday, just like we did this last 12 weeks. We'll be going for another 20. And so, yeah, we're super excited about next year. And please just take care of yourself and take care of each other and keep on rocking.